Thank you for joining us today for our webinar, Cityworks PLL and AMS, a formula for success. I'm Hiram Kruger, a customer success manager here at Cityworks, and I'll be your moderator for today's webinar. Our presenters are Tom Merce from Woolpert and Adam Chenal from Prince William County Service Authority. This webinar will last approximately 20 to 25 minutes, followed by a short Q&A session. If you have any questions or concerns during the presentation, feel free to send them to me in the Q&A window at the bottom right corner of your screen. Now, I'm pleased to hand it over to Tom to begin the presentation. Tom?
Thank you, Hiram. Good morning, everyone. My name is Tom Merce. I was the lead implementation analyst on this project with the Service Authority. We have one initial polling question to ask you all, and that is, have you explored the idea of using Cityworks PLL and AMS to manage your utility permitting processes? So for many of the webinar attendees, Cityworks AMS is currently being used or is being considered for use as your asset management solution. Cityworks AMS, however, only manages the ongoing maintenance component of an asset's lifecycle. The first lifecycle stages of most assets begins with an application submittal, followed by plan review, and issuance of a permit to perform work. These first three steps occur within Cityworks Permits, Licensing, and Land, or PLL. The latter stages of an asset's lifecycle occur in AMS. Together, PLL and AMS leverage the GIS centricity of Cityworks to provide users reliable metrics for their assets, from application submittal through ongoing maintenance. The Prince William County Service Authority saw the value in using the combination of PLL and AMS to manage their utility permitting review processes, ranging from minor sewer connection plans to major development applications. I'm now going to hand the presentation over to Adam Chenal.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Adam Chenal, and I'm a systems analyst here with the Service Authority. I was the Service Authority's technical lead and project manager for the PLL implementation. And just some quick background about where we're located. We're in Prince William County, Virginia, which is in northern Virginia, a little bit southwest of Washington, D.C. We've got a little under 500,000 residents. The Service Authority serves the majority of those residents, about 340,000 customers across 90,000 accounts. Our accounts vary from residential to commercial to include industrial, data centers, shopping malls, large commercial users. And we own and maintain about 2,200 miles of pipe between our water and sewer system, and we can handle up to 56 million gallons a day of water and 43 million gallons a day of wastewater. And the Service Authority recognized the need for some new permitting software several years ago. Some of the reasons for this was a lot of information was kept in paper logs, a whole bunch of different Excel spreadsheets, and a lot of it was in people's heads. We had to rely on institutional knowledge to inform us how to navigate the different plans. So for example, if a plan was submitted by a developer versus a school project versus a Department of Transportation project, they all had little nuances and differences. And those nuances and differences were really only known, again, by people in their heads. This often led to a time-consuming process because there was no central system. In order to track down the status of a case, internal customers would often have to make multiple phone calls, multiple emails, trying to track down where the case was and who was in charge of it at that given time. In addition, data was entered into multiple places, so lots of people had their own paper logs, their own spreadsheets, their own Word documents. These could be stored on the network and known to others, or stored on somebody's hard drive, and if they're out of the office, you're out of luck. So all of these reasons were pushing us towards finding a new solution. And the reason we chose Cityworks, or one of the big reasons, is because it's GIS-centric. It's built on top of Esri's technology, and that's something that the Service Authority is already using. The Service Authority is committed to being a GIS-centric organization, so it just kind of made sense. We liked the fact that we didn't have to maintain separate asset registries and sync them between GIS and a separate CMMS software. So those are all selling points and why we chose Cityworks. we're actually a little bit unique in that we went with our PLL implementation first. And this was largely because the PLL project was going to be smaller, we could test the waters, and so it was kind of a pragmatic choice just to tackle the smaller project first. And we partnered with Wolpert. We chose Wolpert due to its experience with implementations, the staff they provided, and their experience with integrating Cityworks with other systems. All right, and just a little bit more about our PLL implementation. It was a 14-month project. We had a core team of internal service authority staff that worked with Wolpert throughout the project, representing each of the departments shown on the screen. And we went live with the software a little over a year ago. The project included evaluating as-is and to-be business processes, several rounds of configuration workshops, developing integrations, training, testing, and of course, go live. Many of the business processes that we documented and formalized were optimized during these reviews because we realized there were better ways to do things, especially with the new technology available to us. And the project primarily focused on PLL, but we did branch into AMS a little bit for our inspectors, and I'll touch on that here in just a little bit. So before I talk about the benefits of using PLL, I'll give a real quick introduction of what PLL is, because I realize many people may not have experience with it. It's basically the permitting module of Cityworks. As Tom mentioned, it handles everything up until an asset becomes yours to own and maintain. And one of the big strengths of PLL is its workflow engine. So a workflow can be set up with tasks that are separated into milestones. These workflows can be linear, so go from step 1 all the way to step 10 and that's it. Or it can include looping and branching logic, so if an inspection fails and you need to reinsert inspection tasks, or branching logic, for example, if a plan does require a utility permit versus not requiring a utility permit, you can have the workflow go down 2 different paths based on those results. The workflows are also flexible, and so you can add or delete tasks as needed. So you start out with a template, and if there's a one-off scenario where you need to add tasks or delete them because they're not needed, you can always do that as well. And logical checks are built into this workflow to prevent a project from progressing without completing the necessary steps. So for example, tasks for an inspector to go do work in the field will never become available to them until all applicable fees have been paid ahead of time. And that's where we get into the milestones and letting a case progress. So after we have a workflow and dozens of workflows, you can have as many as you want, you can create a case template. And the template can include the default workflow, fees, case data, which is more or less just custom fields. These custom fields can be linked to the fees. So for example, if one of your case data options is for meter size, the meter fee can be driven by what the user selects in that dropdown. You can set up as many workflow templates as you want and case templates as you want. And then when a plan comes in or a case gets initiated, you choose what's appropriate. So for example, a developer plan, a school plan, a town plan, a data center, all of those have their own unique workflows, their own unique custom data that's captured with those. And then each task in the workflow can have comments, checklists, and attachments associated with it. So all of this gives us the ability to codify a lot of that knowledge that was in people's heads. Keeping this information in templates is very helpful because even if someone's out sick or someone retires or finds a new job, we have the institutional knowledge now in a system where others can use it. And the document management, because we can attach files to tasks as well as the case in general, it acts as a good central repository where you can put all those items. And those of you that have used AMS and the work orders, it functions very much the same way. So on the screen now we have kind of a representative illustration of the AMS and PLL development project workflow. On the far left-hand side of the case, in that yellow box, that represents a developer plan. So this could represent a new subdivision. That case has its own workflows, its own fees, its own custom data. Various tasks within that workflow can automatically spawn a child case, or a child case can be inserted manually. So the next column over where it says meter certs, those represent certification cases for when a developer is ready to get water service to a particular lot within that subdivision. And again, those cases can have their own fees, their own workflow, their own attachments, all that good stuff. From those meter certification cases, different tasks in PLL and different task results can spawn work in AMS, and that's where that bridge kind of between the yellow side and the blue side occurs. So when a meter certification applicant is ready for their meter inspection as well as their final inspection, they notify our office staff completes a PLL task, and then that automatically creates a work order that the inspectors use to then go do their work. And for those of you that are familiar with the AMS side, you'll know that you can also have related inspections to those work orders if you want. So just touching on some of the benefits that we're seeing by using PLL, again, codifying the institutional knowledge. I was in a training the other day, and between two inspectors, they had 62 years of experience. And we have over a dozen inspectors. So between all the different groups, we have, I think it's safe to say, centuries of experience between everybody. And getting that out of people's heads and getting it into a system was really key for us. We've been able to benefit from that a lot. Organizational transparency, because everything's in one place, people know where to go find it. So even if an inspector is out sick, or even if somebody doesn't know who the project engineer is for a given plan, they can look it up in Cityworks and find out that information. It kind of acts as a heads-up display that summarizes everything about the case to include fees, custom data, which steps are coming next, that kind of thing. And then inboxes allow us to track and monitor tasks. It can act as people's to-do list. And those of you that are using AMS, the inboxes will be very familiar, and they function in very much the same way. And in fact, you can have a PLL saved search right next to an AMS saved search. So the experience is pretty seamless for our end users, which is especially important for our inspectors who have a foot in both the AMS world as well as PLL. And so some of the benefits we've seen about using AMS and PLL together, as I mentioned, the tasks in PLL can automatically spawn work orders. So the office staff worry about their job, and then as they result tasks, the work orders are created automatically. They don't have to do any extra legwork. It just happens automatically and then filters into the proper inbox. So that's a little bit of a load off their shoulders. Our inspectors are using laptops in the field, and this allows us to have real-time information between the field and the office. Prior to Cityworks, we were a paper-based workflow, and by the time a paper got printed out, delivered to inspectors, the inspector did their work, recorded the results on the paper, and the paper made it all the way back to the main office. That could take a week. And depending on the type of inspection and inspection results, it may be very important for office staff to know what happened in the field as soon as possible. So that real-time link allows us better internal customer service as well as better external customer service if a customer is calling wondering what's going on with the case. Another big benefit we're seeing is improved reporting capabilities. The fact that Cityworks has a Crystal Report Viewer built in means that we can easily access reports that aggregate and analyze data in whichever fashion we need it. One nice feature in PLL is that you can have multiple report templates associated with a particular case type. There's no limit to how many report templates you can include. And when I say reports, I mean both the kind of traditional sense of reports, as in give me a spreadsheet crunching a bunch of numbers, as well as a report that functions as a template for a letter, and anything in between. And these reports can be run for an individual case or across all cases, and include a variety of input parameters. For this project, we did develop some custom integrations between other systems. Wolpert took the lead on developing custom integrations between our financial system, which is J.D. Edwards, as well as our customer information system, which is Kayenta. The Kayenta integration is real-time, and the J.D. Edwards integration runs on a daily batch process. And additionally, the Service Authority developed some internal integrations from PLL to AMS to push over important case information to the work order. So for example, an inspection's point of contact from the developer side would get pushed into a universal custom field on the work order so that the inspector wouldn't have to keep jumping back and forth between PLL and AMS. We also developed a couple spatial database triggers to enhance ease of use, to do things like perform intersects automatically or determine the closest water tank for a project. And lessons learned, there are always plenty. The biggest one I would stress to anyone who's considering implementing PLL is that it's a significant time investment. The strength of PLL, which is its workflow and all of its logical decision-making and gatekeeping functions, all of its strength requires a significant time investment in order to reap those rewards. It's not something where you can just turn the keys over to your implementer, although for our implementation, Wolpert was instrumental in guiding us through the process. But it's not something that somebody else can do for you. It requires a lot of staff investment. And data migration, Tom and I are actually going to be presenting a roundtable at the national conference in May, specifically about data migration, but I'll speak a little bit about our experience here. We decided to migrate our cases from our legacy system into Cityworks. The advantage of that was that we didn't have to run systems in parallel. We didn't have to maintain multiple versions of integrations to our third-party systems. The downside was it took some work to get the cases that were in progress in our legacy system up to speed in Cityworks. And we knew that was coming, but it was still a bit of an effort, a heavy lift. So to that end, I would recommend having plans or SOPs in place at go live for how you would handle those migrated cases. I think the Service Authority did a good job of training for cases that were going to start in PLL, but we had to make some on-the-fly adjustments for cases that were halfway through the process at go live. The third bullet up there, I hope speaks for itself. It's basically impossible to do too much testing for all the crazy scenarios we threw at PLL and at the configuration over the course of the project. There were still plenty of things that happened since go live that we never would have thought of. So you can't do too much testing. And we were fortunate to have a staff that was invested and committed to the project. So that fortunately wasn't a problem. But again, that kind of folds into the first bullet of it takes a lot of time to do all this. And lastly, change management is key. I think change management went pretty well here. One thing I would have done differently if I had to do it again would be to give our staff more hands-on experience with the software, even if it wasn't fully configured, just a little something to let them click around and see how inboxes work and save searches work and that sort of thing. And that's really on me. I think I should have just given them that opportunity sooner. So letting others know that change is coming is key. If you don't have everybody that will be your end users on your implementation team, have your representatives make sure that everybody knows that change is coming. Giving them a heads up, answering questions as far in advance as you can is really, really helpful. So it's not a surprise at the last minute or some mysterious system that's going to get unveiled at the last minute. So where are we now? The Service Authority has brought its migrated cases up to speed. Our field inspectors are using Cityworks to complete AMS work orders. These work orders could be a simple one-day inspection to go install a meter or perform a final occupancy inspection, or it could be an AMS work order that stays open for years throughout the course of a development project. As we get our feet underneath us, we're beginning to realize the potential of the system. We've had a lot of good requests and enhancement ideas come from our end users as they start to feel out the system and get more comfortable with it. And that includes being able to use reports that they couldn't get before because the data simply wasn't there or wasn't there in an organized fashion, as well as asking for new reports as they, again, realize the potential of the system. And we're continuing to modify case templates and workflows and adding new ones as new scenarios come along. And as far as where we're going from here, the Service Authority is in process with its AMS implementation, its full AMS implementation for our operations and maintenance folks. That project is underway, and then after that project is completed, we will be implementing AMS for our treatment facilities and vertical assets. And some of the options we're exploring for our PLL users are using service requests in AMS for external customer inquiries. So, for example, an outside customer may call us, or we may have many outside customers call us about a single parcel of land that's for sale, saying, hey, do you have water and sewer available to this parcel? And we may get 10 phone calls across 3 different engineers across several weeks. And each time the engineer would have to spend time researching that question to come up with an answer. And so our thought is use a service request to do that work once, document the answer associated with that location, and that way any subsequent requests about that same lot, we could just use that work that's already been done. Another option we're looking at is we're considering using the PLL public portal so that developers could submit plans online, pay fees online, see the status of their case without having to come here in person. And so with that, and I appreciate everybody's time, I hope you found this informative.